Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, Efficient Debugging with Dart DevTools. I'm glad to present many of the new things in Dart DevTools, especially for Flutter developers. If you're working with Flutter for quite a while, so perhaps, or even if you're a beginner, you're going to be quite happy to see new things in Dart DevTools. So, but before I start, let me quickly tell you, like, for instance, we as a developer usually spend a lot of time and debug our application, go through bugs and errors and stack traces and things like that. And a majority of our time, let's say, as a developer, it's somehow like spending on these process, like finding bugs, debugging, profiling, and things like that. So imagine that if you're working on an application right now and you don't have a good tools for that, or there are tools and you don't know. So to use your time very effectively and efficiently, having a good tools is very important. In fact, having these good tools also helps that we learn from our errors, because let's say in many of those classic books, when we read about, debugging and error handling and stuff, it's time to time mentioned that, fixing an error is somehow an opportunity to learn. And that's absolutely correct. But if you have a correct tools and how to debug that, this path to learn these errors is even better. It's like pleasant way of learning while we are developing our application. So in this session today, we're going to talk about like why Flutter, and if you don't have any idea or probably you are beginner, so very quickly touch Flutter, and there will be some theory about Dart DevTools, but I promise it's going to be very quick. And then it's all live coding. So I don't have much presentation to show you today. It's mostly demo and live coding. But if you are familiar with Flutter, and even if you are not, in Flutter, we say that everything is a widget. So in fact, when you are debugging your application, so you're dealing with these widgets. And a lot of time, not a lot of time, always you're writing Dart. So these are the things that are two coupled into each other. So that means if you know Dart DevTools better, you can definitely use your time most efficiently. In fact, Flutter itself helps you to become productive developer when it comes to development for, let's say, cross-platform development. So with different things that it gives you, and one of them is this amazing tooling, which comes bundled with Flutter SDK and Dart SDK. And one of them is, of course, Dart DevTools. In fact, Dart DevTools is just a suite, a web suite of debugging and performance tools for Dart and Flutter applications. So you can use Dart DevTools for Flutter app, for non-Flutter web apps, or if you're writing, for instance, any Dart, let's say, web application, or a command line app, let's say. So you can definitely use Dart DevTools. So what you are learning today is mostly about Flutter debugging and using Dart DevTools for Flutter for sure, but you will learn quite a lot of things that can be useful when you are working with Dart in non-Flutter application. If you are using any of these editors, let's say VS Code or IntelliJ, Android Studio, Dart DevTools, in fact, it's kind of embedded. So when you install plugins for Flutter, you get Dart as well as Dart DevTools, and some of the features embedded to the your IDE. And if you are using any other editor and you would like to use Dart DevTools, you're welcome. It's easy because it's a web application and you can open it up. even if you are using these tools, today you learn that we're not going to use most of them, but we're just going to open this web suite and try to work with that and learn the small things that helps us to become more productive. So let's get started. And I'm going to quickly jump into this application. So this is an application now. It's running on an emulator Android. It's a simple application that I created. It has some issue, and we're gonna fix this issue together with you and by getting a help from Dart DevTools. I'm running this application right now. Don't worry about if phones are small and things like that, because we're not gonna spend time on that. I'm gonna just open up Dart DevTools and we're gonna use that instead. But briefly, this is Android Studio, and I will also show you VS Code if you're a VS Code fan, so you see how you can use debugger and Dart DevTools. No worries. But if you are using Android Studio and you set up your project correctly, you should have a bunch of addition to your editor, which helps you to run performance tests or let's say debug your layout and things like that. And one of them is these performance tools. So in this application, which I run, I have this nav bar here after running my application with this little icon here, which is when I hover over it, it says this is Dart DevTools. This is what I'm gonna start with, and I'm not gonna work with my editor for debugging my application. And I'm gonna show you the power of Dart DevTools today. And that's the whole idea behind of this talk. You may debug your application with your editor, but in fact, I'm gonna use Dart DevTools and show you you can use Dart DevTools for almost everything that you need for debugging without even an editor. So I now open it up. This is Dart DevTools. Let me just, yes, let me just resize it a bit so we see also app next to it. Very nice. So this is an overview of a web version of Dart DevTools. So in fact, if you open up your application, if you run your application with debug mode and open up Dart DevTools, you get everything here. So, and here is right now all the tabs that we have, and we're gonna go through all of them one by one and fix those problems that we faced in our application. So let's quickly review. First of all, we have Flutter Inspector. Of course, I'm gonna use this Dart DevTools for Flutter application, therefore I will have Flutter Inspector. So in Flutter Inspector, you will see widget tree, which has been built in your application, and you can inspect your widget easily. And you can even sometimes fix some of the issue on the fly in Dart DevTools. You'll play around with the Layout Explorer and see how you can fix. And once you know what the problem is, you can definitely go ahead and, in fact, fix the problem in the code. So another one is performance and CPU profiler and memory, which mostly we're working with them around running our application and checking out what the problem is about performance, when it's not 60 FPS, or when the memory consumption is quite high, or CPU is we are using CPU quite intense. Debugger is exactly the one that I really like to work with right now, because this is the way that usually you debug your application. You have your editor, and perhaps you're going to use breakpoints and stepping in and stepping out and things like that. But even if you don't have a proper like an editor, let's say not a proper editor, you can use any text editor without any problem. You still can use this debugger here and go ahead, use breakpoints and anything like that. We're gonna check that today. Network tab is where you capture all of or intercept all of those network requests, and I'll show you how many good information you will see that usually you need to serialize or deserialize or use print or something else to your console and then check it out. You will also have logging. I'll show you how you can effectively or efficiently use these tools to sort out what you are doing. And at the end, app size, which is quite new in Dart DevTools, helps you to make sure what like how is your app structure in terms of sizing. So let's get it started from Inspector. As you see in the app right now, I have an overflow issue in this text. This is a problem that's quite common when it comes to mobile Flutter app development. You get these overflow issue time to time, and you think that, okay, how can I fix it? Or sometimes in one device, you don't get it, in another one you get because of the different size. So you need to have some solution for that. The first and the most important things that you need to learn about Dart DevTools is inspecting these widgets, and which is quite handy. So if I click on select widget mode right now, what it gives me right now is that if I go to my app, I have this ability to select any, somehow, look at this, select any widget that I created, and it just immediately goes, even in my editor, it goes to where this code is located. Let's bring it up. So in fact, I can even see it in my widget tree immediately, or I can right now select here, or maybe I can play with that here. Look at this here. So I can simply play with it. So let me just take this out. Or, I can go up, go down, and, find a lot of things here. Okay, so let me add my editor because it's just resume. Here we go. Okay. So now I want to fix this problem. So that's quite easy. So then I'm going to select this widget, which is, of course, this one. Let me refresh my tree one more time. Here you go. So I know that there are some problem here, and I would definitely see all of the information about these widgets, and I have a lot of useful information, like what are those values and variables that I passed and things like that. Maybe even I can play with that if I need. And one of the things that is also quite new in Dart DevTools is this Layout Explorer, which time to time helps you to realize how you can adjust your layout without even adding any widget to your code, and just use, let's say hot reload to immediately see. Without even changing anything, you can do that. For instance, here in this case, I see that I have a couple of course, option here. So of course, my text widget now is wrapped by a row widget. And there are a bunch of stuff here, and I see there is an overflow error as well. So if I want to play around, I have a couple of options. For instance, on this row, I may be able to use any of these and see if the main axis is an issue. I can play around, select, and see nothing is changing. So perhaps it's not a problem. But then I have other options as well here. For instance, here, I can change the fit to loose or tight, or even add some flex number here. So for instance, if I want to make these texts like to use the flex 1, which probably might help my issue, I can simply play around with this. Look at this here. If I now put it on 1, I need to, let's refresh that. Let me show you what's going on here. Since I am running my application in debug, so when I have an error, it just pause our application. So that's the reason I need to skip that for now, because then we can play around with it. Oh, okay, I just closed everything. Let's run it again, no worries. And okay. All right. So I'm gonna open up my Dart DevTools one more time, which is good. And that's also one of the beauty of Flutter. It's just a hot restart, and you see that how fast I could restart my application. And here is where I want to change my flex and see that the problem is fixed, apparently. You see on the screen. And that gives me an indication that if I want to fix this problem, then in my code, I need to wrap this widget with a flexible or expanded widget. And then here you go. I'm good to go. So here is exactly how you can detect your problem here. So simply I go now and wrap my text and with a flexible or expanded, whichever, doesn't matter at this point, and it's gonna get fixed automatically. So this layout explorer is quite handy and also powerful. So you can go ahead and play with it and do a lot of other things which can be quite helpful. For instance, let's take one more example. Let's see that we have now a column, and the whole screen is the first widget is column. And let's say that I want to play with this column, see how it looks. For instance, I want to just say a stretch, and then, I can see the difference immediately on the screen without changing anything. That's going to be quite handy when it comes to exploring what is quite nice on the screen. Let's take another example. Like we have this row of 2 buttons at the bottom. Here we go. Here you see right now. And here is now it's space around. The main axis is space around, but I can play with that. And I say, yeah, well, I want to see if it's a space between, how it will look like. Or let's say if it's spaced evenly, you see that it's changing. Or what if I want to say start? Then both comes, to start. And here is I can simply play with my widget and see which one looks better when it comes to the main axis for this particular one. All right, quite good. So we're gonna go and to the next one. There are some performance issue on this application. So first of all, if you want to use performance, CPU, profiler, and memory, do you need to run your application in profile mode? And also you need to run your application on a real device. I have already prepared one mobile app right now and connected to my computer. So here is where you see I am right now broadcasting my phone to the, let's say, screen, and you see it now. And this application right now is running by profile mode. So if you don't know how to run with profile mode, it's quite easy. Let's take this one in VS Code. Now I have VS Code ready here. If you are a VS Code user, you know that you can create these type of configuration in your editor. Simply open up that. Let me close this. And you can add one configuration for Flutter, which is going to go for a launch request, type is Dart, and Flutter mode is going to be profile. So if you run that, then it's going to run in profile mode. So if you are, again, a VS Code editor user, you see that you have in your command line palette, you have Dart DevTools already installed here. So if you technically click on that one, so you will see this web application as well. And all right, so one more thing is that you don't necessarily need to run that from from your editor, you can also run Flutter run your device and with profile tag, and everything should be good to go. And at the end, after it's running, you're going to get a URL, which is here. And that's the DevTools that you can use. And here is where I used it. And you see that because now I'm running in profile and a real device, I don't have these widget inspector, which is expected. So now I'm going to run a performance tools because let's see what was the problem with this mode. When I ran that in debug mode, the problem is that it's not you're not going to get an accurate data. There's a lot of stuff happening in debug, and also emulator is not quite it's not going to give you an accurate data. That's why you may see a lot of janky frames, which is not actually correct. So, and that's why you need to run that here in this screen on a profile mode. So, which is close to production, and you can figure out how you can run performance and the issues around that. Let's move on. And first of all, the nice thing here is that there is an option here where you can show the performance overlay. When you go back and forth in your application, you can see these overlay on top, and you see where those janky frames is happening. So I'm gonna turn it off for now, maybe, or it doesn't matter. I can turn it on. So then I'm gonna log in. You see some frames are already there. So let's log in. It doesn't matter. So for now, I'm going to log in. I'm going to get to this screen. So in this screen, I have some problem. Let me just turn this off. Now, if I just refresh, I will get a bunch of course, frames, which I don't want it actually. So that was not any problem for me until now. But I have some problem in this screen. Let's figure it out together. Let's see if also you can spot it out. So I'm going to clear this data and scroll down. You see my application is just at some point it's a bit slow. So let's get the data out of that. And here you see that all the frames are almost okay. But let me just get it one more time. Here you go. Refresh. And yeah, you see that all the frames are pretty much okay, except, well, something is wrong here. One of these frames are not quite well. It's quite slow. Something is wrong here. If I click on that, I see the timeline for that. And that's quite handy. I see what is taking so much time for rendering. So let me zoom in a bit and zoom out, so you can simply do that with your middle button on your mouse, for instance. So I see that there is, like, if I go to the next frame and come back, all these frames use a build method, and that one here, it takes so much time for this frame only. But unfortunately, I don't see any other information here. I don't know. I know that the problem is in build, but I don't know what widget is causing that. Here is this button, which says enable tracking widget build. Is quite handy because it also gives you some indication of which of those widgets for this frame is causing a problem. Let's clear that and run this with having this button enabled. One more time, I'm going to scroll and refresh. Hopefully I get my janky frame. Here's my frame. All right, I'm going to click right now. And this time, so if I now go to build and let's just, you see that it takes so much time actually to build. I'm going to just, previously there was nothing after build, but now Now I'm slowly getting something. All right, something is wrong here, and I see that I have actually a problem with list style or gesture detector here, because these are the widget that I used. So how do I know? Of course, so you wrote your program and you probably remember. And also, if you don't know, let's bring up the editor one more time. Actually, let's find it out. How do I know that this frame is where and what is causing this problem? That's actually a question right now. Let's do that. Let's do it together. I know that there is actually a gesture detector. If I search in my application right now, I may get a lot of gesture detector or maybe list style, which I used, or things like that. But which one causing that and what function? That's something that here the CPU profiler and bottom-up stack will tell me. All right, but there is nothing here at the moment. The problem is that it seems that I broke this one and it doesn't work, but I have an example for you here. Let's take this one quickly. How it will look like is like this one. If you click like on a janky frame, you should see all the functions that take so much time to execute. In fact, I took a picture before I break this. So let me just bring this up. Here was where I, in fact, had this a problem. When I clicked on this widget on build, I immediately see in bottom up that I have a function here, some kind of function fib, and that takes around this percentage of the whole time to build for this frame. And that's 92%. And that's something is wrong. It just gives me an indication that something is wrong here. So now without even, let's say, knowing where this function is, I can just simply go back to my editor and search for it and just search and find if I can find this function. And I see that not here, of course. Let me actually open up VS Code. That's so I see that now I can just go to my search and search for probably this function. Oh, I see. You see, the function name is just appearing right now. All right, I go to this file. And all right, there is a function here. It just does something I don't know. But if I move, or let's say where I'm using this, if I now inspect it and feel, okay, so now I find out actually this is using here. And in fact, it says that when in my list of coffee, for instance, if the index is 15, then do this Fibonacci, and that takes a lot of time. So, but the point, well, how you want to fix it, that's a different story. It depends on your problem, your issue. But how you want to fix this, it's, the point here is how you can spot this issue. And that's where you see those functions that takes time in this bottom-up tab. You definitely get more information here as well. So, which I'm going to show you here, because the other one doesn't work, and I don't want to reload it again. Unfortunately, my computer memory is completely full, and you see that how slow is my computer. There's a lot of things that's happening. So, and you will see all of these charts on your editor for sure. If you run, especially if you run on Android, most of the things you get, it's quite accurate. All right, and CPU profiler is same as this one that you see under the timeline. Let's move on to the memory for sure. Here is the memory. Here is where you can check your memory consumption of your app. There are a lot of things happening here. You can definitely see it live. You can play with your app, see what's going on. You see, when I work with my application, if I now change the tab or log out, log in, I see there are probably some hiccups here. So I'm going to go and find it out about those problems probably. So that's quite also handy. So you can make a profile and use this profiler for your use case. Another thing that I like to point out here is network tab. A lot of time when you develop your application, what you do normally is when you have like, let's say a callback or a function, normally you come here and say print and print something in your console, right? So sometimes it's not quite nice to do that. It's nice for HTTP requests to just have a handy tools to check all the headers, let's say, request and respond, or even cookies. So I'm going to go to here to log in. So I'm going to log in without doing anything, because when I hit on the login, I make a network request. So in this panel, so I am right now capturing or intercepting all the requests. And that's quite nice. So I can, if I'm working on like a lot of APIs and I know them, I may search them. Like, okay, I probably want to search for user, and that's going to highlight it for you. Or even if you don't know, it doesn't matter. You can just go and hit and check one by one. So the beauty here is that you get an overview of your request right away here. And the nice thing is that you also get a respond tab, which shows you all the response that you receive. And that's quite handy. That's quite beautiful. Because usually when you want to do that, you need to print out or like check your logs and things like that. But then you see it here in a nice formatted structure. And most importantly, well, let's say not every time you make a request, you get 200 success, right? Many times you get other, let's say status code. So you want to debug like, okay, what kind of header is missing? What is like in header in for respond or for request? What did I miss? What did I not send? What should I send? Or what is the value at that time? These are quite handy things that you can definitely use from this network tab. And of course, you can also check the cookies if you are sending that with your request. All right, let's move on to logging tab. All right, the logging tab, well, how most of the developers that I've seen when they work with Dart project or Flutter specifically, they're going to use their kind of console, or if they are using, let's say, let me just bring up this Android Studio. Android Studio, probably here in this debugger, or, you see the logs over there and try to search and find them. But Dart DevTools here in this case gives you a very nice tool that you can search and spot your logs, which you printed out. And that's one of the nice things here that, for instance, you can search for any type of log that you print out. Like, let's say I'm logging right now something that calls sorry, and you see that immediately goes to the sorry one. And I can see the details of that. Or let's see, for instance, you see now I'm getting a lot of logs here, especially the Flutter framework logs. But you can filter out the logs that you want. So if you click on the filter, you have a filtered query option that you can put any option here. For instance, I can say kind, and please just show me standard out logs only. And here we go. You get now only those logs that you are printing, or they are they're coming to the standard out as a log. So then you get all of them. That's it. So you can simply filter, and you see that how fast you can filter and look at the things that you're looking for. Now even you can search and just simply find the one that you are looking for. Or the other way around, you can say, do not show, let's say, any log from a standard log. So by passing just minus at the beginning, you're just doing the other way around. Okay, so I think my computer is quite slow. I'm sorry for that. Now I'm getting all the other logs except standard out. Or, well, this Flutter frame, let's say it's not quite handy. I can just simply filter them out, for instance. And okay, apparently I did. Oh, yeah, I forgot kind. All right, that's the format. Kind, ... and you say what you want. Yeah, I'm gonna go and you see now I'm getting all the other logs except Flutter frames, and that's quite beautiful. So another good thing is that when you have logs, time to time, first of all, you get, if I open up this here, let's open up these network requests. So you see the whole bunch of stuff here, all of them. Sometimes in terminal, you don't see all of them, kind of crap, or, you need to do some stuff to see all of them. So, and also nice thing is you can immediately copy that in your clipboard and paste it somewhere for further investigation. So when I say efficiently, this is one of those ways to make you more efficient when it comes to debugging or checking your logs. And last but not least, app size. It's quite new and it's quite handy. What it does, it's going to check your production app. At this moment, I'm talking about APK for Android. And it will give you a very good indication of what are the sizes of each things that you used in your app. I'm going to go ahead and instead of talking, just do one and show you. First thing first, what you need to do to create this, when you build your app APK with Flutter, you need to also pass -- analyze - size. That's quite new in the CLI. And then after, I did it already because it takes some time to build applications, so I didn't want to waste time here. So then I ran it before this presentation. So now my app is somehow created, and this is the path to get my release production app. And at the end, that's where I want to tell you. Let me make it even bigger. Here you go. So now it says a summary of your APK analysis can be found at, there is a path, and that path is build folder APK code size analysis 01 JSON. And this is what you need to pass to app size to get an overview of your application. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna import this file. So of course I need to be on my project. That's my project, and I'm gonna go to build folder, and this is let's find it. Oh no, maybe I should run it again. I think I removed it. Let's see. Here is my build folder, and yeah, of course, yeah, I think I removed it because I had some issue running this application before this, and I had to clean up. So let's run it. That's good, actually. So let's run it one more time. So gonna go ahead and run this. Oh no, sorry, I need to run it with. I'm using FVM. If you're wondering what is FVM, FVM is Flutter SDK management. So instead of using like switching between different channels in Flutter directly, you can use FVM. And this nice thing is that you don't need to always, jump between channels and then upgrade and wait and things. It's gonna be ready for you, and you just need to use it. And since I need to run this with a dev channel, I use dev channel for now. So I use FDM here. So that's why now when I run with, because I used a lot of null safe packages, and that's not ready in a stable channel, if you're wondering. Therefore, I use beta or dev at this moment and build my application. So that's fantastic. So it's gonna build this application. But before it's finish it off, here is my editor. I'm gonna actually close this app and make sure that I don't need the debug mode anymore. All right. So seems like, yeah, here we go. It's now built, and it says, yeah, I can find it now in a different path, but it's fine. I'm gonna go on this, let's say, folder. Here you go. And so here's a folder which consists of these JSON files, and I will just drag and drop it here. All right, very good, nice. So now I can analyze. And here we go. When I analyze, now I have a very good overview of my APK application for that particular platform that I built this. And I see that what are these things that takes so much space. I can just click and look at everything like from root. For instance, one of the things that I see here is that Flutter assets, and I see all the assets. These are all my assets in this application. That's the beauty of this, is that you can definitely run these for your application. You can make sure that what things are taking so much space. If you can, and it's from your app, you can fix them. Maybe you can optimize them. You can definitely go ahead and do that. So another tool that you also have here is diff. So you can see the different the diff between two apps, like the one that let's actually run it. I actually have two right now. That's version 1, and that's version 2. And I can now analyze if you have two different versions of your app, like version number 1 and 2, whatever. Then you can keep these analyzes and then make sure you see what you see right now is a difference between these two. And there are some differences here. For instance, this is one of the differences. Like, for instance, this file now was different from the one that I had. And the reason is that you see that it's quite smaller. Probably is because the one that I ran before null safety, and that's right after null safety. And perhaps I'm getting a little bit smaller files, let's say, especially dot files. Or maybe it's not that, maybe it's something else. But anyway, it gives me a good indication here that what is the difference between all of these two, let's say, a JSON file. All right, very good. Let's go back to our presentation. And we together reviewed a couple of issues in the app. We had a layout issue, we have a performance issue, and we had some CPU profiling. We ran some CPU profiling. We checked our memory consumption when we work with our application. App size, effectively and quickly check our network requests and debug and logs. These are the things that we together today we ran and we checked, and that shows you, and that hopefully help you to become an efficient Flutter or Dart developer. With that said, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm open for any question. You can also get all the presentation, including source code, in this file. In this URL. So bit.ly/Dart DevTools. Very nice. You can also reach me out on Twitter with this handler. All right, any question?